Good morning. I'm Rachel. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I really just wanted to start a YouTube channel just to remember what this time in our life is like. And I know that's super cliche because there's a ton of people doing that right now. But I don't know, things are just a little bit different for us because number one, we are technically homesteaders. We call ourselves farmers, but we're really small-scale homesteaders. And so that's been really interesting to start doing that in the middle of the pandemic. Back in June when we moved out here, that was kind of the worst time because everybody and their brother was decided they were going to start gardening and they were going to start canning their own food and they were going to start raising, oh my gosh, 2020, it's the first week of 2021 right now, so last year, but really it feels like all the same year. You could not buy chicks anywhere. You could not buy baby chickens. And it was because everybody was like, oh, well, you can't get eggs at the grocery store right now, so I'm just going to raise my own. Well, joke's on them. When we finally got chickens, it was July. And my sister got them for us, which was so sweet. And we have 8. We have 1 rooster and 7 hens. And they were 2 weeks old at the 4th of July. And we still haven't gotten eggs, and it's January. So, joke is on everyone who thought they were going to raise chickens for eggs. We use ours, we want eggs, obviously, but we use ours for insect control because we are sort of holistic farmers, sort of conventional farmers. So we did put down basically 7 that kills fleas, ticks, beetles, grubs, stuff like that. We put that down before we moved in, either in April or May, and we put it in the main pasture and we put it around the house, and it sort of worked. But by the time we moved in June, there were so many ticks. Brandon, my husband, and I would go out and absolutely come back just covered in ticks. And so we were like, we really have to do something for this. So the 4th of July, my youngest sister brought us 8 chickens, and she got them from Rural King, which is sort of a bigger and better Tractor Supply. They sell chicks year-round. They sell guinea keats, they sell baby turkeys, poults, I don't know. They sell chicks and they sell ducklings year-round. So she brought us what was supposed to be 4 Buff Orpingtons and 4 Rhode Island Reds. One of the Buff Orpingtons turned out to be an Easter egger, but that's okay. Her name is Tap Dancing Jan, and she's gorgeous. She's one of my favorites, but she is the meanest one that we have. She got them from a bucket that was supposed to be sexed. They were supposed to all be pullets, which is baby hens. They're all supposed to be girls. But one of them turned out to be a boy. He's one of our Rhode Island Reds. He is a rooster, but he does a really good job of keeping them safe. Generally, the more chicks that you get, the more you're going to lose. But they've all lived. They all have kind of thrived, and we have not lost any to predators, which is shocking because we have literally possums almost every week. But anyways, they haven't gotten the chickens yet, which is very shocking. So we've been really blessed by that. We also had a raccoon. He's huge too. We saw him on our trail cam, but it hasn't gotten our chickens either. So I think Brandon just did a really good job at designing our coop, and then having a rooster that is aggressive towards predators really helps keep them alive. But besides the chickens, we also have 3 goats. We have a male, our buck, his name is Rick, and we have 2 females. Our does are Daphne and Velma. And we think that Velma is pregnant, but we haven't sent off the blood sample yet. We'll see if we do or not. We may just wait. They're a meat breed, I'm not interested in goat's milk. I don't want goat cheese, but we have meat breeds. We use them for land clearing, and eventually we will breed them and have babies, but they are all, Rick was born April 25th, and the girls were born sometime around the same time, which means they'll be ready to breed late spring, early summer. And then we'll have little babies. If we have females, we're gonna keep our first few females, and then we'll start selling them. You can make good money in goats right now. I don't know if it'll be like that forever, but I kind of want to capitalize on that while it is like that. Behind our house, there's kind of a triangle-shaped enclosure. We are planning to reinforce the fences, and we found a shed back there so my great-grandparents built the house that we live in, and they put that house back there to put goats in, but we want to use hogs to clear that property, and then we'll have hogs. Brandon and I don't eat a ton of pork. We like bacon. I like some ham. And then I love ground breakfast sausage. I don't actually eat it in the morning. I like to put it in things. Like I like to put it in spaghetti. I like to put it in sausage dip, stuff like that. That's what I like it for. So eventually we'll have hogs and we'll use them for the meat and sell them. Anyways, I just feel like there's a lot of like things going on right now that I kind of hope to never forget. Like I watch a lot of history documentaries, and they're like, we don't have like a good snapshot of what life was like because we don't have diaries, we don't have records, we don't have stuff like that. So we have to guess from what stuff is left. I just feel like in 100 years, like, I don't know, YouTube's not gonna be around in 100 years, but I hope that some form of this sticks around so that like my great grandkids, if I have any, I don't know, maybe I won't, but maybe someone will find them and be like, wow, that's crazy that that's what life was like back then. Like there's that little snapshot. Because 2 days ago now, protesters stormed the Capitol building. We're in the middle of getting all that sorted. The reason they did was because Trump is currently the president and he just lost the election, and they're upset about it because there's been a lot of claims of election fraud and nobody's been able to prove anything. I don't want to talk about my opinions on the matter because I don't really know what I believe right now. But anyways, the protesters stormed the Capitol because they were confirming the Electoral College votes and they were wanting to stop them. They're calling it Stop the Steal because they're saying that Biden stole the election from Trump. Like I said, I don't know what I believe. I think there was some very fishy things that happened, but I don't know how I feel about all of it. So that happened, and I like sitting in history class, you read about these crazy things that happen, and you're like, I wonder what the everyday people thought. Like, how did they find out? What was that like for them? I was sitting at work, and I like flipped open Instagram real quick, and a girl that I went to high school with had posted just a screenshot of the news, and she was like, this is ridiculous. And so then I started looking into it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But it was like 2020 and the beginning of this year have been so wild. I did not even react. I was just like, oh, that's dumb. Like, that was it. I didn't feel anything because we watched protests and riots all this past summer. We watched coronavirus, but there's just been like so much stuff that happened in the past year, like it doesn't even hit you. You don't even think about it anymore. You're like, oh, that sucks. And my coworker, she keeps the news on in her office, and she was like, oh my gosh, did you see they're storming the Capitol? And I was like, yeah, that's crazy. And like that was it. That was the amount of conversation that we had on it. She's like, oh, I think somebody got shot. And I was like, oh man, you're so numb to all of the like garbage that's going on. The only thing that I react to anymore is stuff that happens like in my personal life. Like my grandmother passed away a week and a half before Christmas, and like she was totally healthy. She was 84, so I know she was old, but like they still got out and about, they still traveled. Like at Halloween they went to Chattanooga, And so when Granny passed away, that like really rocked my world. It was like, oh, like tragedy and loss can happen to anybody, and it can happen literally anytime. She wasn't sick. Her mind was still good. Her body was still good. She just died. It was Sunday morning. She had been singing at the Christmas cantata, went and sat back down in the pew, passed out, and that was it for her. It was so shocking. I was so unprepared. Like, it just really rattled me. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I react to. All kinds of garbage could happen at the national level or even at the state level, and I would be like, oh dang, that sucks. You know, like, it's just been such a weird year, and everybody's that way. If you took a snapshot of people in the world right now, like, everybody would be so apathetic. So I'm a Christian, and I'm not ever gonna lie to you about that. Like, straight up, I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and the only way to heaven. And I'm gonna be honest with you about that. God calls us to be in the world, not of the world. And figuring out what that means in a year like 2020 is so difficult. Because, like, I don't know how to not get swept up in literally the constant drama, whether it's political, whether it's economic, whether it's, like, Brandon and I have gotten 2 stimulus checks at this point. The first one, we both got $1,200. So as a married couple, we got $2,400. And then last week, we got 2 $600 checks. So we got $1,200 as a couple. And, like, what do I responsibly do with that money? Because he and I, we were out of work at the beginning of the pandemic. So back in March, I quit my job and we moved home because we were living in Canyon, Texas at the time. I was going to West Texas A&M, go Buffs. And so we moved home, and he was out of work for a while. He's an electrician. I was working at a wedding dress shop, so it wasn't dramatic for me. I wasn't making very much money. But, like, we lived off of what Brandon made, and he made good money. And so for him to be out of work was, like, a little bit shocking. So it was nice to have the stimulus checks. But Brandon also is really good with money, and so he saved up, and we had a savings account we were able to live off of. And then our landlord was really great. We were able to get out of our lease and it not cost us an arm and a leg. And at the time, I have a horse. He lives at our house now, obviously, because we have a barn, and we have pasture and stuff like that. But he was in Alabama, and so we just moved home, and we were back in Alabama with him. Our dog, I love to say, oh, we have a pit bull named Tough, because we do, but she's the size of a beagle, and she has little bat ears and everything. She's tiny, but she's cute as can be, and fierce. She's very protective, so take that as you will. But Tough travels so well. We literally just loaded up. I will say, we moved home at the beginning of lockdown, and so we are racing lockdown orders. So, like, to come from Amarillo, Texas, like I said, Canyon, but Amarillo, to Huntsville, Alabama, you take 40, and then you go through Memphis and kind of wind down, and then you get on, we call it 72 alternate because Highway 72 runs through the town I lived in, but it's not the same Highway 72, but it is the same Highway 72. So 72 West, 72 alternate, whatever you want to call it. You take it literally all the way down, and then you're in Huntsville. You have to go like 40 runs through like Oklahoma City, Little Rock, Arkansas, and goes into Memphis. And we had a U-Haul with literally all of our earthly possessions and my truck, and that was it. Brandon's truck was at an airport in Pennsylvania. The reason Brandon was out of work was because Pennsylvania shut down, and they're like, if you're not a cop or a hospital worker, you don't get to come to work. And so Brandon like could not even get on a flight to go back and pick up his vehicle. Like, that's how strict it was. And so school shuts down. They're like, okay, we're not coming back after spring break. Y'all are out for the semester. We're gonna start doing things online. Go home. And so like a bunch of us that were from out of state and stuff, we were all like, cool, so what does that mean for us? And then Brandon and I were already planning on buying the farm. We were planning on moving in June. And so we were like, okay, so do we just go ahead and buy the farm and move in? Well, there were renters in the house, and so we had to wait for them to move out. So we were just like, okay, well, we can't keep paying rent when Brandon doesn't have a job. And so we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to go home. So we were, basically the moral of the story is we were super blessed that we had the option to move back in with my parents for a little bit until we moved to the farm, because if we had to keep paying rent, we would have been in a hard spot. And so like there were a lot of people, there's still a lot of people in a bad spot, out of work and stuff because of the pandemic, but God has just really looked out for us. And not because we're anything special, we're totally not. We've just been very blessed for whatever reason. So anyways, we are like trying to decide, okay, do we move home? Do we wait it out? Do we hunker down? Are we going to be able to move home? Like, what do we do? And at the beginning of the pandemic, they told everybody masks aren't going to keep you safe. Don't go out and buy masks. My dad is suspicious that they told us that so that healthcare workers could kind of stock up on masks first, because then they told everybody, actually, you really should be wearing a mask. And then all of these states passed mandates and stuff that you had to wear masks. But at the time, masks, they were telling us, were like, they're not going to do anything. And so we decided it would be best if we did try to go home. We had to wait for our landlord's office to open up and kind of explain the situation to him and see if we could get out of our lease, because if it was going to cost us a ton of money and eat through our savings to get out of our lease, we would be better off to stay. But he cut us a heck of a deal, and he was like, I totally get it. Y'all go home, be safe, stay healthy. That was on a Monday, I think. That was Monday afternoon. Yeah, because Friday we were like, oh, should we stay? Should we go? Friday we got the news that we weren't going back to school. Monday, he gets back in the office, and we're like, can we leave or do we have to stay? And he was like, y'all can go. So by Tuesday morning, Monday night, we like packed up as much of our stuff as we could, and we were like calling around to try and rent a U-Haul. And did you know that getting insurance on your U-Haul trailer is optional? I did not know that. I thought that you had to get insurance on it. So I found like the cheapest option on the insurance, and I was like, this is what I'm doing. And so we rent the U-Haul, we go pick it up Tuesday morning. Tuesday, we spend the entire day loading the trailer, finishing packing, making phone calls, like making arrangements, doing whatever we can. So by Tuesday at like 5 o'clock, which Amarillo time, the sun's still up, like it's not busy, like it's just regular daytime, whatever. So 5 o'clock, we are rolling out, and we drive all through the night because, like I said, like they're starting to close hotels. They're like, you can't stay in a hotel if you're not this kind of person or this kind of person or traveling for this reason. We didn't qualify for any of those. And so we're like literally just trying to get somewhere. And originally we were going to drive through the whole night. Well, outside of Muldrow, Oklahoma, which is super close to Fort Smith, I damaged the trailer. I didn't wreck it, but I didn't turn wide enough when I was pulling away from the gas pump, and I damaged the fender, so it was dragging on the tire of the trailer. And so Brandon took a tire iron and beat the fender out away from the tire. By the time Brandon like almost had it fixed, another guy with a huge trailer pulled in. He was like, hey, do you need help? Like, I have some tools and stuff. And we were like, thank you so much, but I think we've already got it fixed. And then a police officer showed up and he was like, hey, do you guys need help? And we were like, no, I think we have it fixed, but thanks. Anyway, so Brandon's like, okay, I'll just drive. I'll take care of it. And he's like, okay, actually, I'm way more tired than I thought it would be. And I was like, I know, I'm exhausted. And so we are like searching for somewhere. And because we were at Muldrow, Oklahoma, we made it like the 30 minutes or so into Fort Smith. And there's a hotel that I always stayed at driving back and forth to college in Texas. And so we stayed at that hotel. We got there at like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was dead empty. And Tough is afraid of automatic doors. And if she barked too much, they had the right to tell us, you can't have your dog here, she's being disruptive. And she's terrified riding on elevators. Well, the stairs were closed, and for whatever reason, it was so bizarre. The lady was like, oh, the stairs only go down. And we were staying on the second floor, and I was like, how do the stairs only go one direction? There's stairs. But she was like, sorry, they only go down. And I still have no idea why she said that or what that meant. So we had to take Tough through the automatic doors. There were no other options, and we had to take her on the elevator. She did not make a peep, and that is so unusual for her. I seriously think that God was just like, hey, dog, because I don't know why she didn't bark. And so we get in the hotel, we stay the night. We ended up making it home the next morning just fine, and then we stayed with my parents. We tried to semi-quarantine because we were like, we have no idea who we've been exposed to and stuff like that. But Brandon's aunt works for Purell. Well, she works for Gojo, who makes Purell. They make the hand sanitizer, they make disinfectant spray, they make stuff like that. And before the pandemic, they would just have this little sample cart go around, and they'd be like, try this, take this home with you. So their basement is full of hand sanitizer, disinfectant spray, stuff like that. And so we were literally so stocked up on that stuff when you couldn't buy it in the stores and stuff. Again, that was months before all of this happened, that Brandon went over to her house because he was working where she lived, and she just loaded him up with stuff. So we had that when we shouldn't have. So we were super blessed. We were super lucky. So thankful for how that all turned out. We were able to share that with our family. Right now, my parents have coronavirus. A few months ago, my sister had it. But so far, my older sister and my youngest sister have not had it. Brandon and I have not had it. One set of my grandparents has had it. My grandfather has not. And my grandmother, while she was still living, she never got it. And so, we've just been crazy lucky and crazy blessed throughout all of this mess. When all the shutdown stuff first started coming in, my parents were like, we can't buy toilet paper. We can't buy paper towels. There's a bunch of stuff that they're out of at the grocery store. And Texas still had it. So I was like, oh, I'll just go pick some up. And if we come home, I'll bring some with me. The day I decided to go was apparently the day everybody in Texas decided to go, because, things hit us slower in Amarillo. And so, I drove to, 5 different stores trying to find toilet paper, and then I bought huge amounts, and I took it to my parents' house, and so we were able to share with them, and we had plenty to make it through when you couldn't find any at the store. But, the day that I went to the grocery store, there was a lady, and I was looking for green beans, and there were no canned green beans left. There were none. So Brandon and I started growing our own when we moved out to the farm, and we're still eating green beans that we raised ourselves this summer because I learned to can. I'm telling you, all this homesteading stuff, we're having fun and it's really great, but it is hard work and it is a major learning experience. But my mom got me a pressure canner for Christmas, so now I have my own pressure canner. But anyways, so I was standing in the aisle with all the canned vegetables, and there was hardly anything left. And this lady is trying to find canned green beans, and there's none left except for these gross season ones. She's like, I don't want these. And everybody's like, we literally don't know what to tell you. And she smashed a bottle of hot sauce on the floor in the middle of Walmart because she was so upset. And I was like, this is how we know things are crazy. But honestly, the world hasn't ended yet. And everybody is still just living their day-to-day life, trying to figure out what to do. So I don't know. Anyways, I'm starting this because I want to remember what life is like. Brandon and I don't have any kids. My older sister is expecting their first child, and she's due in March. And so I just want to remember what all of this was like. So I don't know how much of my family you're going to see because I want to respect their privacy and stuff, but I'll at least tell you about them. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. So, I'm at work. I have to go to work now. See you later.